And I think we are live. Hello, everybody. My name is Trinette Hackett. Thank you for watching. And this is Stomping on Eggshells. And my cohort over here is my uncle, Rowan Takaoka. Go ahead and take it.
Hi, everybody. I want to thank those of you who are courageous enough to watch this. It's not an easy subject. It's certainly not an easy thing to live through. And this is what Jeanette has done. She's now delivering a processing of what she's going through and what she's ongoing dealing with. It's not something like this goes away. So the underlying message to the world will basically be how one person, a very, very strong person, is dealing with it and how she's processing. And Trinette is becoming the family hero. And not because she's, well, she is special, but not because of that. Because she's courageous enough to stand up and discuss openly what she's going through. So she's not doing it to showboat or no theatrics involved. This is the real Trinette. So you'll think that she's rehearsed this for days, and maybe in a way, due to her life and due to what it's turned her into and what she's become in the midst of that, there is a bit of showboating because it's a natural Trinette. She's well practiced at what she is. So it's the real thing, authenticity, and a real subject, and I hope it helps some people process what they're going through, and that's why I'm supporting. So Trinette, it's all back to you.
Okay, thank you, Rowan. One of the things I wanted to say first was there have now been 7 different people that have contacted me privately to share that they had a similar experience, and I'm grateful for you reaching out and confiding. And anyone who does it in private, I'm never going to out because it's not my story to tell, and there are a lot of people that do not want to go as public with their healing as I am doing right now. But I thank you. I thank you for saying something and for reiterating to me that the things I'm saying out loud make sense, and that validates what I'm trying to say to people and what I'm trying to convey to everyone that may or may not be watching. A couple things I wanted to say first was why am I picking the title Stomping on Eggshells? And the thing is that this is such an ugly topic that usually people literally walk on eggshells, and I refuse to do that anymore. And so, yeah, I kind of shove it in your face, and I kind of push the issue because it's like, this is why the predators are winning. This is why, because everyone's afraid to look at it, to talk about it, and it is happening practically everywhere. And that kind of ticks me off, and it makes me angry for myself. It makes me angry for other people that are afraid to speak out because they're afraid of being judged. And so that's kind of why I wanted to talk a little bit about that and explain that, because stomping an eggshell sounds really weird. That's not really something you're supposed to do with, food products in the kitchen or anywhere. One of the things that I wanted to also say is, you may wonder why I'm saying, hi, this is my name. This is what I'm going through, and I'm not just doing a black screen. I'm not, hiding behind it. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of taking on that responsibility that because I was involved in that act and that circumstance, that I am just as bad as what happened, that I am just as bad as the person who did it to me. And that's why I can't hide anymore. That's why I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of wondering, is this going to hurt someone's feelings or make them uncomfortable? I'm not going to do that anymore. That's not on me. This is my healing process. This is how I'm dealing with this. And if you don't want to listen, don't listen. No one is forcing you to listen to this. But this is just how I'm going about it. And if you want to come and watch, then by all means. The topics that I wanted to go over today are things that I have been actively dealing with in therapy. A lot of these are coping mechanisms and triggers. And if I say anything, I did not invent this idea. I did not, table this. I did not do all this research and actually identify these things. I'm taking from what other people have written, have said, have published, and I have managed to apply them to myself. And you may actually notice that you might do some of these things, and they may have nothing to do with this, because everyone has coping mechanisms for a reason. And So just because you do or don't do it, that doesn't mean that, oh, I didn't do 9 out of 10 of these things, so it didn't happen to me. That's not the case. There are plenty of people that have these coping mechanisms that have never experienced abuse or at least incest. And that's okay. Or you may have one and not the other, and that's also okay. So this is not like a checklist of if you've done all these things, then you are a survivor. You're a survivor of something, just maybe not necessarily this. I actually had to compile a lot of this and ask my husband for help because I wasn't aware of all the things I did necessarily, because I just figured for years I was just weird and crazy, and that was that. Just, take it or leave it. It took a lot of therapy to realize that there's actually a reason why I do a lot of these things. And I still chew on the inside of my mouth, like right by my teeth, until it was, if you peel back the lip, it's all white and shredded on the inside. And you just sit there and just chew and chew and chew, and then until you get an edge. And that was just a silent, invisible way of dealing with, sometimes I was in a situation where I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to say anything. And especially as a female, you're supposed to be appealing in public. You're supposed to smile. You're supposed to not. If you start acting out, people just think you're a bitch. Whereas if a man gets angry, it's like, oh, we actually have to pay attention to it. If a woman does it, it's psycho. I smoke. That's another coping mechanism. I did it at first because I got this buzz, and I felt dizzy, and I liked that feeling. I also did it because my dad thought women smoking was disgusting. And that was a big plus for me. And right now, I'm smoking a little bit, and then also I'm doing this, and I'm not saying that it's good. I'm not saying it's good. So don't just start smoking. But that was one way that I kind of put a barrier around me, because a lot of people don't like smokers. And I was just, okay, fine, get away from me. This is all how nature says do not touch. A lot of these things that I'm doing were just, it was a way to separate myself from other people and just make myself as unappealing as possible. A lot of things, like I know a lot of women do this. This doesn't mean that it's indicative of anything. I will sit there and dig out every pimple I can find until I am bleeding and scarred. And I will pluck and pluck and pluck and pluck and pluck. And sometimes I've gone and I've tried to pluck every hair by hand out of my legs. And the little bits of pain, and it's almost like I was trying to remove unwanted filth from my body. It's like, get out of my face, get out of my arms, get out of my hair. One thing I've been trying to stop doing is I used to pull hair out of a single spot on my skull. And if I could feel that one little bald spot where no one could see it, it just felt like a little calming secret. And I would just rub it until my bald spot in there was almost raw. And I actually stopped doing that after I gave birth to my daughter, because for a stupid reason, I thought, mothers don't pick hair out of their heads, so you just don't do that. And that makes sense enough to me. I didn't want to do it anymore. So I just, started scratching at the temples where it was thinner, and it felt like when the bald spot would start to grow in. And I would just scratch and scrape until I would get scars barely visible. And then I would scratch away at the scabs, and I would literally dig a crater into my temple. And for whatever reason, that calmed me. That calmed me because at least it was a pain I was inducing on myself. And it was kind of a way of, okay, that's ugly. Well, I'm ugly, so, that matches. That matches a lot. And it was a nervous movement. I know that as a child, my mother couldn't understand why I would steal food. We always had plenty to eat, but I would steal food, crackers, salami, canned oysters, and I would eat them in really weird places in like the bathroom. And then I would put the can with the oil in it, like on the washcloths. And I always meant to go back and get it later, and I forgot. And so she would find it and it would tip over, and it's like, why are you doing this? And it took me years to realize it was some small thing I could control. Some small thing that I could be like, you can't stop me. You can't watch me all the time, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to eat it wherever I damn well please. And it drove her crazy. I used to take some of her clothing and some of her underwear and stuff like that, and I would cut holes in it. I would ruin it with scissors. And I was angry. And in some ways, I thought I was angry with her because I thought she knew, and I thought she was okay with what was going on. So I would destroy some things of hers. I used to take her costume jewelry. And I remember reading as a kid that Native Americans would bury things and offer sacrifices, and the Greeks would do it too. It's like, offering things of great value for a wish, for a prayer. And those are the prettiest things I could think of that maybe she wouldn't miss right away. So I would take her jewelry and I would bury it in the garden or on the side of the house, because in my own little way, I was trying to be giving an offering, hoping a prayer would be answered. And it didn't work, and when she found out, she's like, why are you burying my jewelry? And I didn't have a good answer for her then. I couldn't articulate out why I was doing this and what I was trying to ask for help for. So in a lot of ways, it looked like I was being a real jerk, eating food in the bathroom and cutting up her clothes and stealing and burying her, her earrings and her necklaces and her bracelets. We had a wisteria plant in the backyard. It was a beautiful wisteria plant, even though it had all these hornets and bees during the summer, and they terrified the crap out of me. And I remember reading that wisteria seeds were very poisonous. And I would take them, and I would take all the seeds out of the pods and I would put it in a little jar I got at a churchyard sale. And I remember thinking, if I eat a handful of these, I could make it all over. And I never had the courage to even eat one, but I would take them, and if you've never seen a wisteria seed, it's a very dark brown, almost purple black disc, like a butterscotch disc that you've been sucking on for half the time. And I would rub them across my lips and over my chin until it would get warm. And then I'd put it down and I'd get another one. And it was very calming knowing I had the power to end it. I had it there. No one knew I had it. And it was so soothing to rub the seeds over my mouth. Kind of like maybe how someone would, take a knife or take a blade and just run it along their skin, just knowing you have the control that if you had the courage to take one more step, you could end it right now. That was probably the scariest thing I ever did to myself, was realizing that I had in my hands the ability to end it all. But I wouldn't give it up. I kept some of those seeds for years after I moved out. One of the things I've forced myself to stop doing is I would reread all of my old children's books. Like even up to like a few months ago, I'd read the Boxcar Children. I'd read, some of these kid books like Little House on the Prairie over and over and over. And most books I read until I've memorized them. I know page 63 on the left, that's what I want to read about. And I used to do that because that was a coping mechanism I derived as a child. I would disappear into books. And because my parents approved of book reading. And even up until a few months ago, I kept all these kid books. I would actually go online and try to find the kid books I remember reading as a child. And I would read them over and over again while I ate, just so I could escape again. And found out that wasn't really healthy, because then I was still escaping back to a point where I wasn't safe. So the hardest thing I had to do was put them all in a box and get rid of them. And they're still sitting behind my couch because I haven't taken it to the thrift store yet. But it's there. It's there. I'm working on it. But I would do that just because, even though it would fill me with trepidation and anxiety, there was also the remembering the illusion of safety. Because at that point, that's all I had was the illusion. A lot of things I'm sure you guys have realized. I eat way too much. And I used to be bulimic. I'll go into that in another episode because that ties in with my dancing. But I finally decided I wasn't going to throw up my food anymore unless I was sick. So I eat, and the flavors are able to kind of make me just trance out. And well, hey, I beat anorexia, I beat bulimia, so that's a plus. All I have to do is now actually start going to the gym, which we'll get to that next year. I also remember around 9 or 10, my mother couldn't figure out why I started peeing in my underwear. It's not like I didn't know how to use the bathroom, but I was trying to make myself as disgusting as possible. I would urinate in my clothes, and sometimes even at school, and it would hurt, it would burn, and it would, people would comment on the smell, and they just thought I was really weird and a baby, and they didn't really know what to say, so they just made fun of me. And I was trying to be as disgusting as I could so that he wouldn't want to come near me. I wouldn't bathe unless my mom realized I wasn't bathing, and she'd force me. It's like, you need to be clean. And and not brush my hair unless she forced me to. So I'd go to school looking like a rat's nest, wearing hobo clothes, you know, as boyish as possible. I wanted to wear my brother's old hand-me-downs, baggy, unappealing. I didn't want to wear dresses. I didn't want to be pretty. I didn't want anyone to see me as pretty, because then they want to be my friend, and then they might want to hug me or touch me. And that was something that was way too scary. Something I didn't realize I did until just like a month or two ago. My husband had to point it out to me. I'll start to zone out, or I'll start to be in a bad memory. Something will trigger that memory. And apparently, besides me just talking incessantly, I will make what he calls squawks. I will chirp, I will squawk, I will just make, it's almost like Tourette's, but it's not. It's me physically jogging myself out of that memory. So I'll be doing something in the kitchen, all of a sudden I'm just like, ah! And I'll run across to the other counter and I'll start cleaning again. And I didn't know why I was doing it. I just thought that I had this verbal diarrhea going and I ran out of words. But apparently that's what I would do when I'd be uncomfortable, and I would just start making these random sounds. And that's something I still have a hard time dealing with, is I don't know I'm making them. I have no idea. It's just my way of going, nope, we're not going to think about that. So get back to what you were doing. And anyone who's worked with me, either in a restaurant or in another job, realizes that I do that almost constantly. Because certain things will trigger, and I'll go on to that in a minute, certain things will trigger me, a position of my body, a smell, the wrong color of glasses, a sound, a certain type of laugh. And all of a sudden, it's like something is playing in the back of my head, like a drive-through movie that I didn't want to go to. And so in order to stop myself, because I really don't want to stand like a deer in headlights where everyone can see me, I realize that I've learned to just do something so random and so awkward that it jogs me back into place. And it's like, okay, I'm here. Okay, and I'd go around doing what I was going to do. So a lot of times I look like I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off, because it's like all day I'm dodging these scenarios in my head because I'm trying to make it through the day. And that's going to be really hard for me to stop, because bottom line is I'm a wife, I'm a mother. I can't just sit there on the couch huddled under a blanket. So I've kind of become a very big control freak on when I have my flashbacks, when I deal with my flashbacks, because I'm not going to forsake my family and my child just so I can feel that right now. I always push it off, like, okay, lunchtime, okay, after they go to bed, something. Let me make breakfast, let me make lunch, let me do whatever I need to do, let me go to the store, and then I will crack. And most days I'm able to do that, not all the time. I know that my husband is a wonderful man, and he would tell me, you're beautiful, you're amazing. And that always scared me when a guy told me, you're beautiful. Because immediately in my head, it's like, what do you want? What do you want from me? What is this going to cost me? Don't tell me I'm pretty. Don't tell me I'm beautiful. You're a liar, because that just tells me that you now want something from me. And he kept trying to be gentle and tell me, I just want you to know you're beautiful. And I would call him a nearsighted moron. I would call him an idiot, a retard. I would throw things at him. I would just be emotionally and verbally abusive, because I could not hear that. To be told I was pretty filled me with such panic and such rage, because I wanted to tell him I'm not pretty. If you cut me open and you look at me inside and what I saw and what I've done, you would never think of me as pretty. And I had to apologize to him last night, because I said I hated you sometimes for not hearing the train whistle and walking down the tracks. I thought that I was going to go down in flames and I was going to take you with me. And I hated you for not loving yourself enough to protect you from me. And I kept trying to find ways to make him hate me. I was mean to him. I put impossible rules on him. And I could not, it took me a long time to accept that he loved me unconditionally. And that was probably the most terrifying thing ever, because the few times I thought maybe this guy does, maybe this friend does, they eventually showed their true colors. And that was not something that I thought I could survive again. And with my husband, I've known him for 21 years. I was so manic to him. I was really nice at some points, and then I was hateful to him because I was trying not to get attached because I didn't know how long I'd get to keep him. I didn't know if the military would take him. I didn't know if he'd finally turn to me one day and said, I can't do it. I can't do this anymore. I didn't know if one day I finally did the last thing that would be like, okay, I'm leaving, because I wanted to leave before he could leave me, because at least then I had control over the abandonment. I wasn't abandoned. I got rid of him, and it was so scary. It was so scary because I didn't want to lose him. But I thought, damn it, if I'm going to lose him, it's going to be on my terms. I'm going to give him a reason to leave. So it's not like you're sitting there like, why? Why did he leave? It's like, oh, he left because I was a psychotic jerk. That was easier. Excuse me. So that was a lot of what he had to deal with growing with me. And it was hard for him, and it was harder for me because he wouldn't give up. And I kept trying to tell him, this isn't good for you. You deserve better than this. And he wouldn't listen to me, which is probably the smartest thing he ever did for that, is he wouldn't listen to me. And he just kept telling me, I love you. Even if it meant that I would punch him in the shoulder or yell at him or be mean to him for 2 days straight. That's probably one of the first things that started making me crack and realize that I didn't have to be like this. Going not quite 180 degrees, but some of these triggers, because I've avoided this subject for so long that I've actually become very, very good at minimizing some of the things that happened. And it's like, well, at least I survived. At least I got out. And I'm trying to stop that. It's like, well, at least it was only one person, or at least it only happened this many times, because that just means that I should get over it and it doesn't really matter. And it is a denial of impact on my life. And as long as I deny that and avoid it, I cannot deal with it. I cannot face it. So the hardest part is letting all this in and realizing there's a reason why I do these things. I used to avoid men with hairy bodies. My father is very hairy, and I used to avoid most men like that. And probably the worst trigger ever is I had a boyfriend, and he happened to be very hairy in the body. And I woke up one morning, and I felt him holding me, and I saw the hair in his arms. And probably the worst thing ever happened. I thought I was so crazy that I was back in my room, and I was back in my bed. And that all the years, the fact that I had told my mom, the fact that I was going to therapy, the fact that I turned 18 and got out of the house and got away and started living my own life, that was all a lie. And I woke up, and it's like my brain's going, oh, you thought all that was real. And I wet the bed. I was 19, 20 years old, and I freaking just emptied my bladder all over, everything, because I was so terrified. It's just kind of like, let me die right now, because if that was a lie and that was a dream, I'd rather die. I'd rather die than go back there and try to do that all again. I can't. And thankfully that guy didn't get mad at me, and he helped me clean it up. But that I avoided men with hairy bodies after that. Stupid rules, like if a guy is blonde-haired, blue-eyed, has gold-colored glasses and a beard, he's evil. So back in the 80s, 90s, that was kind of hard because everyone had gold-rimmed glasses. But it's like so many people that just had a mustache or had this. It's like, okay, well, if they look like this and look like this, and if they wear flannel, then they must be bad. So that would actually make me run away from certain people, because just the visual impact of that, my brain said, nope, gotta avoid it, I hate the smell of Irish Spring soap. I hate it. It used to cling to him just like the Old Spice. And there's actually someone that I stopped dating just because I smelled him, and I said, this isn't gonna work. This is not gonna work. That smell fills me with so many negative feelings that I want to throw up. I want to hit the person who is using it. And thankfully now, with so many body washes available, very few people use bar soap anymore. So that's a good thing. I'm not running around wanting to hit people. But that used to be a big deal back in the 90s, because that's before everyone started using body washes and body puffs. And I still can't smell a bar of soap that's Irish Spring without wanting to throw it. I want to throw it as far away from me as possible. I know a lot of people who've known me, we all laugh about how I am terrified of moths. They're clumsy little bugs that if you're outside at night, they just kind of go right at your face, and they're trying to like throw the little soft furry bodies at you. Sorry, I hit the mic. They just throw the little furry bodies against you, and they touch you and they tickle you, and they can't bite. I know they can't bite, but I would run screaming from them. My friends would like try to shield me. They'd try to smash all the bugs or light them on fire, and I would just be running around screaming from these moths. And I realized that that moth made me think of a very insecure, tentative, sneaky, secretive touch. And it was an invasion of my privacy, it was an invasion of a touch. And I've been able to work on not running screaming from moths or killing everyone on sight, but it's still hard because I used to smack my husband because he would just try to stroke my arm or my face, and I would backhand him, or I would put my fists up like, do not touch me. And I had a name for it. It was called E.T. touch because it made me think of the movie. It's like, ouch, and he would just reach out for me gently, and he meant it as a kindness. But if I felt that light touch, it felt like someone was abrading a sunburn. It was like acid. It was like almost like a physical pain. And I would immediately be ready to fight. My husband, who I love and trust and live with, was just trying to touch me. And it's just like, do not E.T. touch me. Do not do that to me. Do not come up from behind me. Let me see you coming. And so I had all these rules where some days he would stop 4 feet away from me and he's like, can I hug you? Because one time he just grabbed me up in a hug and I started shoving on him with my fists. I'm like, you don't take a hug from me. You don't have that right. And I had this barrier with my husband. It's like, you ask me, you tell me. And I was setting up this like really, really strong boundary with everybody. It's like, you don't touch me unless I tell you you can. And that's been the hardest part for 3 months, is getting used to him touching my arm or my back without gripping me. I used to demand that he would grip me almost to the point of pain, because then it's like, okay, that's you. That's you. I recognize you. I can feel you. It feels different. Anyone who would try to tickle me in high school, I would kick him in the knee or take my hairbrush that I'd picked all the little nubs off. So I had like this little tiny mace and I would bludgeon them with it. And I had ways of being just so insane that no one wanted to really mess with me anymore, because it's like, okay, we don't know if Trina's going to beat us with her hairbrush or not, and this is no fun anymore. So I just didn't want anyone to touch me like that. And I found out that if you act crazy enough, they leave you alone, They don't really want to deal with all that. It's too much trouble. It's not really hard in this day and age. I avoid uncircumcised men. And one point I was getting ready to have interactions with a guy and I saw he was uncircumcised, and I picked up my crap and I left. I was just like, nope, not dealing with that. It's not his fault. I was not going to go anywhere near that thing with a 10-foot pole. And I never called him again. Another trigger that I used to yell at my husband for. You turn the doorknob to open the door, right? Well, a lot of people, in fact, most of the people in the world, when they shut a door, they just push against it and it clicks, right? Sounds normal, right? Well, not in my house, because I would scream at him that he couldn't even be bothered to turn the knob like when you open it. And I realized that click of the doorknob, especially at night, would put me on high alert. Because if it was a room away from me, and it wasn't me, it was him. And so every time I heard that click, it was like a death knell. It was just like I'd feel this sinking despair. And then as a grown-up, I would get rabidly angry. I wouldn't put my back to him, my husband. I would scream at him. I wouldn't let him touch me. It's like, no, you sit far away from me over there until I calm down. I didn't know what I didn't know how to handle that. And it wasn't until this summer I realized that's why I hate the doorknob click. You have a comment?
I have a few, and I don't know if it's a good time for you to
That's fine.
take a breather.
I can breathe in and out.
Several people are chiming in, and I really appreciate that. So I wanted to acknowledge a few people. John Jerkowitz came on early on and caught the beginning of the broadcast. Richard Clarkson did the same thing. And Stephen Hackett, your husband, is out there, and I've got a quote from something he mentioned a little while ago. Also, Nancy Stubbs is here, and I really appreciate these people showing up. Several of them from my past hangouts and my circles, and I appreciate you coming and especially chiming in. It's one thing to come and watch this show, and you know how I feel about the word show. We're not putting on a show for the show's sake. I call it a show because it's a catch-all phrase, but if you watch the Smarties for a few months, you know how I feel about the word show. But anyway, one of the things I wanted to bring up was that I believe Trinette's mom, Jan, and possibly Grandma Bachi, that's my mom, may be watching. So I wanted to record this for posterity's sake and say thank you very much, my family.
I love you.
And Stephen wrote a little early when he came in, so proud of my awesome wife for sharing her message and experience with the world, present and accounted for. So he's here, and appreciate you joining on the journey, Stephen. And Nancy mentions knowing your triggers is so important. My husband is still trying to understand the weird things that will trigger him from years of bullying. So the one thing to understand is that all the subjects set aside from today, a lot of people have witnessed the syndrome of the reaction of anger in their lives, and it's almost inexplicable. We don't know why, and yet there's a damn good reason on the underlying layers of the experience of the person. So the anger is not necessarily because of the interaction with the two people involved. Like in a relationship, you're going to be having a really bad time. You're like, what did I do? What did he or she do? And the problem with your anger could be nothing related to that person. So it's something to be aware of in all relationships, not just husband and wife, work relationships, friend relationships, etc. And raising your kids and all those relationships, whenever you feel anger, it's not because of the person necessarily. So the response that we have has to do with, and Trinette can explain this as well as anybody I know, the fear factor and the anger factor. All anger is based on fear. So when you start there and then it translates into anger, then that's a lot of what's going on in the psychology of interaction and relationships. So I just wanted to add that in there. Now I'm going to hand you back the console and let you go on to your next subject. Trinette, thank you.
No problem. Thank you for everyone who did comment, and thank you, Roland, for diving in and letting me take an inhalation instead of just like blowing it all out like a set of bagpipes. He is correct, Roland. You're correct, and a lot of ways that survivors of any kind of abuse deal with things is either shut down and withdraw, or if you're like me, you fight, because it is very much the classic fight or flight response to a memory triggered, which is basically it's a remembered fear. And either you're just like, I can't deal with this, or I can and I'll just take it because I deserve it, or you bust out with this attitude of, oh, heck no, no one's going to do this to me again. So even something as simple as my husband telling me once, I'll take out the trash, and I felt guilty because I hadn't done it yet. And he's just like, no, I can do it because I'm a man. And I flipped my gourd. I was just like, oh, that's right. I can't possibly take out the trash because I don't have the proper equipment. And I stormed outside, and he's just thinking, I was going to help you take out the trash, and now you're mad at me, you know? And I took that as a sexual hierarchy comment, which it wasn't. but I was so ready to jump on people, like, you will not discount me, and if you do, I'll eat your face. And he had to tiptoe through the minefield that was our marriage for a long time, and sometimes I catch myself still doing it to him. One of the things that I realized that I would do to him, especially in the beginning, is I would try to catch my husband in lies. I didn't trust anybody. So I would try to catch him in inconsistencies, and it's like, I got you, you snake in the grass, you know? And I would feel so proud of myself, like, I caught this, so I'm not stupid. If I can see this, I'm not stupid, and no one's gonna get the drop on me again. His favorite story was, I like filling ice cube trays in the sink one at a time. And that's how my mom taught me, and that way you get very little overflow, so you won't get the little bits that melt, and they won't stick together. And it's a very weird quirk of mine that I kind of demand it. At one point, I caught him tipping, jerk, right? I caught him tipping the ice cube tray and letting it all run down and fill up all the ice cubes. And I saw that, and instead of reacting like a normal person and saying, hey, what are you doing? I started screaming at him, saying, that's not how you filled ice cube trays when you first met me. You're lying. What else are you lying about? Did you lie about wanting me to come out here? Did you lie about loving me? Did you lie about wanting to marry me? And he's just thinking, I'm filling an ice cube tray. When did this become like this montage of me having to defend everything I am and that I'm a lying personality? Or we'd be talking, and I'd say, well, you came home late, from work. And he's like, well, I came home at 6:30. And it's like, you came home at 6:37. That's a lie then. It's not 6:30. In my head, it's like, I won. Point for me, which women, we all do it. If you say you don't, you're lying. We all keep score. And this was a game he could not win, no matter what he did, because he's not going to look like, okay, I'm walking through the door now. Well, I'd be watching, okay, because part of me is just, freaking out in outer space. And I would sit there and go, okay, so you lied to me. And he goes, well, that doesn't matter, because he's trying to explain why he was late. And a 7-minute difference in when he gets home is not the end of the world. And I would retaliate with like, oh, so it doesn't matter that you're lying to me. So you're okay with this? And he's just like, no, I didn't think it was lying. I made a mistake. And it's just like, so is it a mistake or a lie? Which one is it? And we would go round and round, and no matter what he tried to do, he couldn't win. And he's learned a long time ago that if we want to play the jerk game, I am so much better than he is, because deep down he is a wonderful person and he is awful at being a jerk. And so when he would try to stand up for himself, I'd take it as like, oh, you're trying to win. Well, I'll be damned if I let you win. So I would he does not know how to hit below the belt. And unfortunately for him, that is my forte. Because when you feel like you are a cornered, wounded animal, you will lash out, and at that point you will do anything to win. And he got to stumble across that tightrope for months, years. And that was something that, wasn't very fun for him. Especially when I would just hammer on him in a conversation. And he's trying to collect his thoughts because, women can draw on all these conclusions all of a second, and they've been planning it all day. And he gets his foot in the door, and it's just like, I'm ready to fight. And he's just like, I want to go to the bathroom and take off my shoes and maybe sit in somewhere that's not a car. That'd be great. And I already had my whole conversation planned out for him. I had already imagined the fights we could have, what I could draw on. So he was not prepared for this, because he wasn't prepared to come home and fight with me. He was prepared to come home and enjoy his evening. So I was basically loaded, guns locked, polished, extra rows of ammunition lined up. And he'd be sitting there probably wondering what happened from the time that I walked in the door and I took a breath to say hi. And then instead of his wife being there, it's like this banshee, like hunched over witch, like, do you know what you've done to me? Because I've already had plenty of time to be paranoid. And he would sit there and he would look sad. And that was another trigger, because when a guy tunes out and pouts like a child, that's what my dad does, because he's tuning everybody out. So, but my husband was trying to figure out, how do I reach her? How do I talk to her about what's really bothering her? Because it can't be that I didn't clean out, the shaving hair from this morning. It can't be this much anger. And I'd look at him and it's like, it's been 30 seconds, you're not talking. And so he'd start panicking. It's like, oh my God, I don't know what to say. I'm trying to say the right thing. I don't know what to say. And it's like, it's been 40 more seconds and you're still not talking. And I became very, very much a bully. And when I would do that, I would feel powerful. I would feel in control. And through years of therapy, I realized that I was trying to fight all the fights that I couldn't before. I was trying to win. And for lack of a better phrase, I was making my husband pay for other people's sins. I was using him as an emotional punching bag, a bludgeoning stick, because for the first time I felt safe, even if I didn't believe it. My mom would tell me in high school, you're smart, you're beautiful, you're good. And I used to come unglued at that. I couldn't hear it. I would just look at her like, you're freaking crazy. What do you mean I'm good? Do you know? Do you actually know? Do you know what you're looking at? You are not seeing me. I am not good. I am never going to be good. I could cure cancer, and I wouldn't ever be thought of as good. And she could never understand why I'd look at her with this hunted, crazy look, and why I'd get so angry. Because the thought is, if I'm good, if I'm not bad, then why did this happen? Why could this happen to me if I'm good? And can this happen to me, and can I still be good? And I'm working with that right now. I'm trying to work with, just because he won't admit this, just because he won't own it. Oh, he did part of it, but not all of it. That doesn't mean that I have to carry the blame because no one else will. I am working very hard at refusing to allow myself to take the responsibility of that and to pick up that load just because he is a coward. And he doesn't want to face himself, because if he faced himself, he'd realize he is a monster. I don't have to be the monster just because he won't. And that was kind of scary. How am I working at fixing this? Okay, first of all, I'm not done. I am nowhere near done, although I'm getting better. Talking helps so much. I can't tell you how many times I've called my sister, my brother. I've talked to my husband. I've talked my mom's ear off. And I have just regurgitated all these feelings, the anger, the worthlessness, the terror, the memories. I have poured them into people's ears and into their faces. And sharing what used to be a secret is at first very terrifying, because you are worried about being judged. You are worried that someone's going to look at you going, okay, you're damaged and I need to stay away from you. And by the way, this is kind of too heavy of a conversation for me. Why are you doing this to me? So I usually do it to my family, because I know that they won't tell me to shut up. I've had years of therapy, had it in middle school, high school. There was a wonderful therapist that kind of hit too close to home, touched a nerve. She was getting onto something and I ran. And then several years later, went back to therapy and it hit too close to home, so I ran. It just me touching and then going, nope, not going to do that. And there was one lady in Oklahoma that it's called EMDR. It's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And you actually have to be credentialed for this, because apparently just doing this with your fingers, you can't just do it. You actually have to be trained to do it. But it's able to bring up a memory and then kind of put it in a different part of your brain, from what I understand. And it helps you look at it from a calmer angle, where it's not as terrifying as it is the first time. I did that once and she stopped because she said, you're not breathing. You're not breathing. And I couldn't do that again. I told her to stop that. And then I ran away from therapy again. Now I have a wonderful therapist that says she's too stubborn to let me stop, and she'll hunt me down if I quit. And she'll tell my husband. But some people have worked with hypnosis. It didn't really work with me, because at the time most of the hypnotists were men, and I didn't like that feeling. I think I'm a little too linear for it, and I used to heckle the two people that tried to hypnotize me. And one of the things that was very classic is like, okay, you're safe. You're in your bedroom as a child on your bed. And that was so not a safe point for me. So it's just like, no, we're not going to do this. You're an idiot and I hate you. And it's like, that is not, it was like, okay, well, somewhere else safe. And it's like, there's nowhere safe. There is no place on earth that's safe unless you put me in jail. And maybe not even then, So hypnosis didn't really work, because usually the places where they tried to put me where it was supposed to be a safe spot, for a survivor, that's not a safe zone. When is your room a safe zone? So if hypnosis works for some people, that's great. For me, it was never really an option. And I usually was so afraid of giving the control to somebody else and letting them take my mind somewhere that I would resist. So that didn't work for me. I'm a control freak and I'm a jerk. So that's fine. Well, I'm not, I have jerk qualities, Supposed to tell myself every day, I'm awesome, I'm beautiful, I'm wonderful, I'm good. Okay, there, did it. One day I'll believe it. Until then, I'll let my husband and my mom believe it for me. I think go ahead. You were saying something?
Actually, I was, I like to let you go because it's a onslaught of just a constant stream of very, very important things you're saying. And so if nothing else, I don't want to break your trend of thought, but I do want to comment a couple things.
Okay.
The whole thought of this unreasonable response stuff, that the entire show has basically been about a lot about that. And I made the note, sometimes we come across with unreasonable sometimes. It's easy to see that every so often one player of the party is unfairly dealing with misdirected negativity. And the whole concept of love-hate relationships, it's like you don't know why there should be negativity in the relationship, but there's always a reason. There's a reason. You may not be the reason, or you may be the reason, but sometimes it's puzzling. It's very easy to see that we contribute to the relationship more than just what the relationship entails. And two people can have wonderful intentions for each other, and yet bring into the relationship difficulties. So the traditional psychologists call it baggage. And when we listen to you speak, Trinette, we hear this, and it's like, oh my God, I never thought of that. So what are the multitude of things that we are not thinking of because we don't know? We don't know about the person's past. We don't know how much they've shoved down and shielded from their own selves and what they're hiding from and what they're reacting from in spite of that, because it's all psychologically in there, part of their fear base and part of their reactioning, mechanism and all that. So a lot of this is like